Buenos dias, chicos. I hope that your e-learning day is off to a good start and you've got quite a bit accomplished by the time you're seeing this video this morning or this afternoon. I wanted to take some time and walk you through some of the grammar that we were going to do today because it's a new concept and one you haven't seen before, but a concept that's used quite a bit in Spanish. And we know the subjunctive is way up here in terms of how fun it is to use and how much we use it in the language. Well, the say inocente is pretty close behind the subjunctive in terms of how often that it's used, how fun it is to teach, and how fun it is to use. So on the screen, I've got a copy of the notes that you had a chance to download and look at just a few minutes ago. But what we're going to talk about today, again, is this idea of the say inocente. And in Spanish, it's a structure we use a lot to deal with accidental, chance, or unplanned situations, something that happens, but we didn't intend it to happen. And oftentimes, it has to do with forgetting something, dropping something, breaking something, running out of something. These activities occur. We're not anticipating that they're going to happen. And when they do happen, we often say, you know, I broke the plate, or I ran out of gas, we ran out of milk. This is what the say inocente allows us to do. And there really isn't an equivalent in English, which makes it kind of cool in Spanish that we have something like this that in English doesn't really exist. Take a look as you're going down here at this third bullet point, and it kind of shows the difference between what we might have said for the last 4 or 5 years versus what I'm going to teach you to say today. The idea of rompí el plato, I broke the plate, I take responsibility for it, maybe I even did it on purpose, versus se me rompió el plato. Imagine that you're walking into the dining room and you bump the table, there's a plate on the edge, it falls off and it breaks. It was your fault, but it was an accident. You didn't plan on doing it. That's the difference between these two ideas. And I remember, I tell you stories about Puerto Rico quite a bit. This is where I learned about this for the first time. I remember being there for 4 or 5 or 6 weeks, and I kept hearing this type of grammar all the time. I heard this word say, and they would say, 4 or 5 words after it, and I thought it was an accident, what they were trying to tell me, but I couldn't put 2 and 2 together. I wasn't sure what they were trying to say, and I got frustrated about 4 or 5 weeks into the semester, and I went to one of my professor's offices, and he explained to me this idea of the say inocente. So hopefully today I can help explain to you how this grammar works, and the same way that my professor explained it to me, because again, it is really used quite a bit in Spanish. So the notes that are here, you've got this on your screen, but I also uploaded a PowerPoint. So I'm going to pull that PowerPoint up and go full screen on that, kind of talk you through some of the grammar that's here. So feel free to follow along with me, either on the PowerPoint or on the handout or what's on screen. But the way we do this, there's kind of a formula we always have to follow. The say that you see here is obligatorio. We have to use that in each of these types of sentences because the say conveys the idea of this happening by chance or by accident. What comes next is either me, te, le, nos, os, or les. And we note that those are indirect object pronouns. The indirect object pronouns that you see here, they're going to refer to the person the action happens to. So for example, if I dropped the plate, I'm going to use me because that refers back to me. If you drop the plate, we're going to use the pronoun te. If we're talking about Alberto and he dropped the plate or he forgot his homework, we would use le because le corresponds with Alberto. What comes next is some sort of a verb. And the subject is going to agree with the verb. So the verb we're going to use is either going to be singular or plural. It's going to be third person singular or third person plural, oftentimes in the preterite tense if we're talking about something that already happened. So for example, if we want to say that I forgot my homework, se me olvidó la tarea. La tarea is singular, so it corresponds with olvidó. But if we're saying that, I forgot the keys, se me olvidaron las llaves, because llaves is plural and has to agree with the verb, which would be olvidar in this case. So this is the pattern that we're always going to follow. And let's kind of click through some examples. And these examples that are on your screen are the same ones that are on the handout. A Juan se le rompieron las gafas. The se, we know, always has to be there. Why le? Because it corresponds to a Juan. Those are going to agree. And then rompieron las gafas. Why is it rompieron? Because gafas is plural, so the verb also has to be plural. Another example, se me olvidaron las gotas para las alergias. Let's say, I forgot my eye drops for my allergies. Again, we see the say always has to be there. The me, because it's something that I did. And then olvidaron corresponds to las gotas, since the las gotas is my plural form. Se me ocurrió la idea. The se always has to be there. The idea came to me is what we're expressing here, so the me corresponds to that since it came to me. And then la idea is singular, so that agrees with ocurrió. Let's look at maybe 1 or 2 more, then we'll go on. Se les descompuso el carro. is the idea of the car broke down on them. The se, again, has to be there to stress the idea of this being an accident. Les, because, again, the car broke down on them, so les corresponds to them. Descompuso agrees with carro. So as you look through on the handout, or we'll click through maybe a few more of these, if you really want to stress who the car broke down on, let's say it happened to poor Juan and Nadia. A Juan y a Nadie, a Juan y a Nadia se les descompuso el carro. The les corresponds to a Juan y a Nadia. We have the se because that's obligatorio. And then el carro, again, is singular, so the verb has to be singular. So again, these are all in the handout. We'll kind of click through these a little bit so you get some ideas, but that's how this grammar works. One of the things that also goes along with this grammar is there's some verbs that are used quite often, and those verbs are on your screen. Some of them may have some new meanings to you since we're talking about a new grammar concept, but as you kind of scroll down and look through this, either on the handout or on the screen here, these verbs are used often with this type of grammar. One that may not be showing on the screen, but it's on your handout, is olvidar, which means to forget. So again, these are high-frequency verbs that we're going to use quite a bit with this grammar. And one final thought as you're looking at the bottom of the handout, in English, a lot of times we say, I forgot my keys, or I forgot my book. Instead of using the possessive adjectives, with this type of grammar, we always want to use a definite article or an indefinite article. So again, if we say that I forgot my book, se me olvidó el libro, because we use el as opposed to me with this type of grammar that we see. So hopefully this explanation in the handout helped you as you're trying to think through how this se inocente works. Why don't we take a couple of minutes and we're going to pause the video, and I want you to go to Canvas. And once you get to Canvas, there's a quiz that's ready for you that has about 14 or 15 questions to kind of work through this new grammar and the idea of expressing unplanned occurrences or accidents. In every single question, there's feedback for you. If you have the right answer, there's some feedback for you. If you choose the wrong answer, there's also some feedback for you. You can take the quiz as many times as you'd like, but why don't we take about 5 minutes or so, work through those questions, and then we'll come back and start the video again. Well, I hope you had a chance to work through the Canvas quiz and had a chance to practice this grammar a little bit. I'm going to keep going on the PowerPoint, and what we're going to do next is on the back side of the notes we just looked at, or if you have it on your computer screen, just scroll down, and there's three practice activities on the back side. The first one is called the se inocente. Section 2 is que pasó aquí. And section 3 is also called the se inocente. And there's about 14 or 15 sample questions. So maybe on a scratch sheet of paper in your head, somehow let's kind of work through these questions a little bit and see if you can come up with how to use the se inocente to express what occurred. I'm going to keep going through the PowerPoint, so feel free to pause this as you're moving through, because what we're going to see next are the answers. So why don't you take some time and work through those before you look at the answers to check and see how your work is, or just pause this at any time. And then here in a second, I'll go through and explain maybe 1 or 2 answers from each section to make sure that you're getting the idea. Okay, if we keep going through, again, I've got the answers on the screen now. Let's just maybe talk through 1 or 2 of these from each section and see how you're doing with this new idea. The first section was having you create some sentences, being given some just fragments. We see a nosotros, quemar, and tacos. How do we express the idea of, we burned the tacos and it was an accident? Well, again, if we check our answer, the se always has to be there. That's what stresses the idea of this being an accident. Why do we choose nos? Because, we did it. And then quemaron corresponds with the tacos. So se nos quemaron los tacos. The next one, we're talking about your parents. For some reason, the car broke down on them. Why do we end up with se les descompuso el carro? Well, the se, again, has to be there to stress the accident. The les corresponds to your padre, since we're talking about the car breaking down on them. Descompuso agrees with the carro because it's singular. So let me click through the next couple of answers here. And again, this is also in the PowerPoint if you're following along with the PowerPoint. And hopefully, again, as you're working through these, your answers are coming out with what you see on the screen. Let's take a look at the second part. The second part, you were given some sentences, and we tried to rephrase those to really stress the idea that they happened by accident. So our first one here talks about Marta. A Marta se le olvidaron los libros en casa. Martha forgot her books at home. The se, again, always has to be there. If we want to use Martha's name, we can. We start with the a Marta phrase. Le corresponds with Martha. And we have olvidaron because libros is plural. So as you're checking 2, 3, and 4, I'll kind of scroll through here and keep advancing the PowerPoint so you can check your work. And let's take a look at the last section. There's some English here for you. It says, how would we say in Spanish that Arturo ran out of gas? Well, a Arturo se le acabó la gasolina. Again, my se always has to be there. Since I want to use his name, we're going to start this sentence with a Arturo. The le corresponds to his name. And then we look at our verb, it's singular, and it corresponds to gasolina because gasolina is also singular. So I'll click through these next couple of answers. You can check your work. And again, hopefully what you're seeing on the screen corresponds to either what you've written down or what you're saying in your head. And that's the say inocente. So I hope that after working through some of the Canvas questions, working through the backside of this handout, that you have a pretty good understanding of how this works. And again, we'll spend some more time with it next week as we get back into the classroom, and we'll use it in some different scenarios. But it is used a lot in Spanish. We use it a lot when accidents happen or when unplanned events happen. And it's again almost as cool as the subjunctive when it comes to grammar. So I hope this video helped you today. If you have any questions, again, feel free to send me an email, and I'll let you get back to Canvas to see what else we have planned for today. Have a great e-learning day. Have a great long weekend again, and I will see you hopefully back in class on Monday. Hasta luego.